Hello, everyone. Welcome to Social Work 203, Introduction to Social Work as a Profession. What I'll be doing in this recording is going over the syllabi. In addition to that, I will also cover the course schedule that goes along with this syllabi. And then I'll do a recording around the Blackboard just to show you where everything is at in Blackboard. So it'll be more like a Blackboard refresher for those of you who haven't taken any courses before. So let's start with the recording of the syllabi, and then from there we can move on to the course schedule. Okay, first of all, the course number is Social Work 203, which is a 3-hour course. Make sure that you're in this particular course. In addition to that, the title is Introduction to Social Work as a Profession. Below that, you'll find that there's a description of the course and what the course is mainly about. There's not a prerequisite to this course, but just be mindful that you will have other courses that requires a prerequisite. Below the prerequisite, you'll find that my contact information is there. I do have office hours on Tuesday, Thursday from 3 to 5. If you're trying to get a hold of me, I recommend that you email me at rdickerson@limestone.edu. That'll give you direct contact to me. Of course, you have a Blackboard Messenger that you can also email me in. I recommend that students basically email me at rdickerson@limestone.edu. But I'm not saying that you cannot use Blackboard Messenger. So when we think about the required text for this course, you'll see the information below, which you have the textbook by Molly, and it's the 8th edition. The bookstore may have issue a higher edition. Just be mindful that there's not that much difference in the two. The other textbook is the Publication Manual for American Psychological Association. So what that is the APA manual that shows you how to utilize APA. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy this book. This is a book that you probably can borrow from a library. It'll help you in organizing your paper and how to actually reference and cite. If you've taken my class before, you know I'm a stickler about referencing. So it's required that students actually reference even their thoughts, their assumption about something, because your assumption is based on some form of validation. So just be mindful, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go over the syllabi and stuff. Okay, I always ask students to make sure that you read the learning objectives for this course, and this is basically the outcomes. So you can see that the competencies is demonstrating ethical and professional behavior by NESW as one of the outcomes, and then you have the use of self-reflection, and so that's getting you to look at your value systems and your belief systems. And how's it going to be measured? It's going to be measured by a midterm final exam. You're going to have 8 or 7 discussion board questions, and you also have to do a paper project in this course, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on down through the rest of the syllabi. And then, of course, the use of technology. So when you take this course, you also have to do a presentation of your paper, and we'll talk a little bit about that also, but just be mindful of that. So let's look at the methodology for the course, okay? This kind of explains what you're going to be doing throughout the course, but what I want you to pay attention to is it's listed as D, but really it's C. So you're going to complete a professionally written research paper using APA writing style format on an issue associated with social work profession. I know students always ask me, well, what you mean an issue? Well, juvenile delinquency might be an issue. Teen pregnancy might be a social work profession issue. So that's what they're looking at. And I give you some examples: domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, populations at risk, social and economic justice, which would be criminal delinquency, welfare reform, diversity, values, and ethics. Those are just a few things that you can choose to write about. Most of the times when students take these courses, they want to know exactly what I'm supposed to write about. But I just want you to be mindful. It's very important for social work students and social workers to think outside the box. So think about an issue that you may have been associated with, a family member has been associated with, and maybe use that as a reason for wanting to write your paper. Okay, so when we look at the grading system, let's look at that, okay? So you're going to have 8 assignments in this course, and I'll show you where it's located once we get to Blackboard. And those 8 assignments is worth 25% of your grade. So it's very important that you make sure you do all of those assignments. You also have a discussion. It's either 7 or 8 discussions that you're going to be doing, one a week, and that's worth 15% of your grade. And then you have your midterm exam, which is due on the date that's shown, for 20% of your exam. So it's very important that you pass your midterm. You have a term paper that you're going to be doing, as I talked about early. That's 20% of your grade. And then, of course, you have your final exam. So you see, I already have your assignments and discussions on a weekly basis, and you can see the date on the syllabi based on when your midterm exam is going to be, also when your paper is due and your final exam. So when we look at the grading scale, you can see for A is 90 to 100, B is 80 to 89, C is 70 to 79, D is 60 to 69, and of course F is anything below 59. A lot of times when students take courses with me, they fail to miss discussions assignment, are not properly citing or forgetting to reference their response to their peers. They lose a lot of points that way with me. So I recommend when we get to the Blackboard, what you need to be doing during that time frame. Okay, below that you have your Limestone college policies, and it kind of lists some of the things that falls within the policy. You might want to pay attention to that as you go through. As you look at this day program, and then you have the ECC program and the ECI program. Well, the ECI program is basically online courses. The ECC courses are normally courses you would be taking in collaborate in class. And you have your day campus. Well, when we get to be a university, some of those things will change. So just be mindful of those things. Then you have your statement of discrimination, and when you get time, you want to take time and read about that. And it talks a little bit about hybrid course definition and what is hybrid course, okay? Well, you don't have to worry about this particular course because it's all online. So even though your syllabus might show hybrid, you don't have to worry about it because you're doing everything online. The only difference is when you're looking at hybrid in class or face-to-face, you'll find that I am available as an instructor, which you can ask questions. But online, the only way you can ask questions is if you email me, and I have 48-hour turnaround time. So if you need to have a question answered on Sunday when your assignment is due, and I don't respond to you until Monday, I'm within that time frame. So, if you're going to reach out to me, you need to reach out to me in enough time that I can respond and give you an answer that you need. I also recommend the students, instead of emailing me, that you actually call me. And if you look at the syllabus, you'll see my phone number up there. Feel free to call me at any time, because sometimes when students email me, they leave things out of their email. In other words, I don't understand chapter 7. So if I'm responding to that question, I'll say, what in chapter 7 that you don't understand? So sometimes email is not as specific as you would like, because you're addressing an issue and you're assuming that I know exactly what you're addressing. And sometimes students even forget to tell me who they are and what course they're in. This term I'm teaching 2 courses. So if a student forget to tell me that my name is so-and-so and I'm in your social work 2 or 3 class, then I won't know whether you're talking about my other class, you're a student in my other class. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so when you get a chance, just make sure you review the syllabus. So let's move on down to the course outline. Okay, the dates to the left is basically by week. In other words, this course starts on the 9th, and all assignments for Unit 1 will be due by the 15th of this month. So let's look at what's inside here. So you don't have to worry about an icebreaker because everybody's online, so you don't have to worry about that. You should review the syllabus. It's required that everybody review the syllabus. Review the APA writing style, and I'll show you where I have those information to include resources for the library. Excuse me. So just make sure. In week 1, you also have to do chapters 1 and 2. So make sure you do that. Read chapters 1 and 2. Because this is online, students are required to learn a lot about the information that they have themselves through reading whatever is due. You also have a discussion question that you have to answer in term 1. So discussion is basically your initial post should be done on Thursday, no later than 11:59, and you should be responding to 2 of your peers on Sunday at 11:59. So just be mindful of that and make sure that you do that on time. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into Blackboard, okay? So let's look at Unit 2. So you can see Unit 2 starts on the 16th of March and it ends on the 22nd of March. And you'll see what you have to do. You have to do chapters 3 and 4 for Unit 2. And you also have a discussion that you have to adhere to. So just know that you have to do those things. Okay, Unit 3, as you look at Unit 3, the start date for Unit 3, which would be your 3rd week, starting on the 23rd of March and ending on the 29th of March. And that's from that Sunday to that from that Monday to that following Sunday. So before it talks about review competencies, so you'll see that you have to do chapter 5 and 6 in Unit 3 and review your competencies. Everywhere where you see there's a need to review competencies, you need to read the competencies for that particular chapter. The whole thing about social work is having an understanding of the competencies that's incorporated under CSWE. So social workers should always know what competencies they're working with within those chapters. Also, your competencies is going to tell you what competencies you're associated with per the chapter, to include what is it saying you need to engage or learn within the competencies. And I'll show you where I have a list of your competencies are also when we get to Blackboard. So again, all discussion posts, your initial post is due on Thursday at 11:59, and you need to respond to 2 of your peers, not 1, 2. Of your peers no later than Sunday at 11:59. A lot of times students will put a lot of effort in their initial posts and they'll reference their initial posts, but then they'll say, well, I agree with your comment as you stated so, and so, and you don't tell the person you're responding to why you agree with that. I mean, I understand that it's just your assumption about the question, but why do you believe that assumption is valid? So this is where I ask students not only to reference your post, but also reference your post to your peers, because your textbook addressed those chapters just like your peers are reaching the textbook to review their response. So if you agree with something, don't tell me that that's just your assumption. Another way of looking at it, imagine you and your kids are in the court system and the judge has to make a determination on whether you should be awarded your kids again. And one of the things the social worker would do is say, well, it's my assumption that the kid should be returned back to the home. That's not going to be satisfactory to that judge. He's going to know, why do you have these assumptions? What is the parents doing to ensure that the kids are going to be safe when they're returned back home? So you need to validate your assumptions or your response to your peers. Okay, Unit 4, you can see, starts on the 30th of March and it ends on the 5th of April. And you can see what chapter there. Also in Unit 4, you have your midterm exam. So you have one chapter that you have to review, and then you have your midterm exam. Now, I'll show you where the midterm exams are located when we get into Blackboard. I think for the midterm and the final, you're looking at 35 to 38 questions, no more. So if you take the time to read the syllabus and read the information that I provide to you, you'll have a working knowledge of what you need to know to actually be successful with the midterm and exam. And I recommend that you look at this syllabus and look at what your midterm and final are worth, percentage-wise, of your final grades. That carries impact. Okay, here again you have another discussion, and you see you have competencies for Chapter 7 that you should be reviewing. I recommend to all social work students that they always learn their competencies. A prime example, this last reaffirmation order that we got from CSWE. In other words, they wanted to validate that students who are attending Limestone can still do advanced standing. And so my site was one of the sites that they actually chose to ask my students questions. And they only asked it to my students who were in field at that time. And so the question was, give me an assignment that you actually done in field. I want you to associate that assignment with a competency and tell me what's in those competencies. So that was the question that was answered. And because I always make sure that all of my students understand competencies and what they're doing in each course, then they'll have an idea of what competencies they're working with. So this particular student said, well, I have to do a biopsychosocial assessment. And the competency is assess. And then she was able to list what falls under that competency. And so this is why students need to really have an understanding of competencies. Okay, Unit 5, you can see what's in Unit 5. It starts on the 6th of April and ends on the 12th. So when I say Unit 5, we're looking at the 5th week. Okay, and here again, you have Chapter 8 that you have to review, and you have to review Chapter 9. And then you have to go back and review, well, you have to read Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 and review the competency for both chapters. I recommend when I show you where the competencies are located that you print it out, put it in a binder, and that way you can highlight it as you go, and you'll have an understanding of what's in each one of the competencies. Here again, you have a discussion, and we'll talk about discussion when we get into Blackboard a little bit more in detail, and I'll show you where it's located. But just know that you have to respond to 2 of your peers after your initial post. Unit 6. In Unit 6, here you have another 2 chapters that you have to read, Chapter 10 and 11. And Unit 6 will start on the 13th of April and end on the 19th. You have a research paper that's due in Unit 6. But if you look at the syllabus, you'll see the exact date that your research paper is due. So I want you to go back and look at the grading section of the syllabi, and it'll tell you the date that your paper is due. You also have a competency that you have to review, and then a discussion post. As we go to Unit 7, which is the 7th week, which starts on the 20th of April and ends on the 26th, you have to read chapters 12 and 13. And then you have a discussion that you have to be able to respond to. Unit 8, of course, which would start on the 27th of April, that's week 8. And this course will end on the 1st of May, just before graduation. So just make sure that all assignments are due in time, especially for those students who are going to be graduating. Okay, so in Unit 8, you just have to review Chapter 14, and you have the review information for your final exam. And then, of course, you have your competencies, and then you have your final exam. The review for the final exam is just you trying to take time out to review because this is an online course, and then you're going to take your final exam on the 1st of May. Normally, I try to give students a week to do the final exam, but I found out from teaching classes before that that doesn't work well because the majority of students wait till the last day to do the exam anyway. So what I did this term is made sure that everybody take the exam the same time, which is the last day of class. So if you have a problem with Blackboard during the last day of class, I recommend that you try to do it before 10 p.m. because if something occurs, I can't help you after 11:59. So here again is where you need to do it early that day. So if you have any problems that arise or any issue that arise, that you can contact me. And I recommend that you do not email me, that you contact me by my phone number, which is area code 843-345-2224. Okay, again, this is just the goals of Limestone College. Sometimes I try to get students to read that. It's very important. And then you got to look at basically the objectives of Limestone and what they are. So when you get a chance, go ahead and read that. And then, of course, you have the Limestone Social Work Program, and it talks about accountability, respect. And for students who are taking 203, you applied to complete a social work program, but you haven't applied to the social work program as a whole yet. And so when I say as a whole, that means that you have to go to the Limestone site and do an application, a social work program application, and complete that. And I will give you some information on that once I find out who has basically already did that information. But if not, then I will be able to provide you with that information. So this concludes this recording for the syllabi and for the course schedule. So I've covered those two. So the next video will be centered around doing Blackboard. And I will do a recording showing you where everything is in the Blackboard and what's required of you within Blackboard. So after reviewing the syllabus, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. Again, my number is area code 843-345-2224. It's also located in the beginning syllabus under the instructors course instructor part, and you'll see it again in Blackboard as we cover Blackboard. So that's going to conclude this recording, and the next recording will be centered around Blackboard.